Okay, yeah, quick introduction. My name is Ollie. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Lopay. We are a mobile POS system for small businesses. We founded the business about 3.5 years ago, and we sit primarily on top of Stripe for payments and a variety of Stripe products. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of All the Tables. That's the first business that aggregates all restaurant booking providers into one system. So OpenTable, Resi, Tock, Reserve, all into one unified API. So you can make your restaurant bookable on blogs, on other platforms, etc. Cool. So quick agenda. I've only got 20 minutes and I may have overshot this. So let's power through. So the first half of this talk, I'm going to focus on AI. I thought it would be the most interesting thing to talk about. Specifically, a new pattern that I'm seeing with payments and AI. And I'm not talking about subscriptions for paying for AI apps. That's a pretty easy problem. But how you use agents that then go and do things that require payments. And the pattern that I'll talk about there is what I call linked virtual cards. And then I'll go on to talk about development patterns, using Stripe as an example with new AI tools. And I'm going to try a few live demos, which hopefully will work. The second half of the talk, I'm going to focus exclusively on Lopay. Our use cases, and hopefully I can sort of inspire you guys to use different Stripe products to build something pretty awesome. Okay, so let's talk about AI in payment apps. So today, a lot of AI agents pull information. It's great for information retrieval, but we're now getting to that point where they start to do things like if your agent needs to make a restaurant reservation, book a train, book a flight, that actually requires a payment. And it's an interesting problem because you don't want your card details going to a third party. And you've got to be really careful when you're designing these agents to build them securely. Your customers' details remain secure. So this pattern here is called linked virtual cards. And here's an agent, here's an example, a very crude screenshot of ChatGPT, but there's many products out there where you can use them to do something. And at the time of booking, let's say, again, using a restaurant reservation, and I'll do a demo of that in a minute, you enter your card information, that will tokenize that information in Stripe. And at the time of the transaction, you can create a virtual card in Stripe in real time, and you use that virtual card to place the order with a third party. And there's a lot of benefits in doing that. You can put spending controls on the virtual cards. So if there was a problem with the flight and the airline accidentally bills you extra money, it protects you from that scenario. Another pattern that I see is that you should, of course, charge your cardholder before authorizing a transaction on the virtual card. So here you've got an American Express. If I was going to pay $50 or £50 for a restaurant deposit, you'd want to make sure that charge is successful before you allow an authorization on the virtual card. It's also really common, by the way, to create one virtual card per authorization. They're almost disposable. Also to mention, like, payment processing costs money, but you can recoup some of that as well using a revenue share of interchange. So the restaurant or the hotel, they're paying for payment processing, and you can receive a bit of a kickback from that. So virtual cards can actually be a revenue generator for you, as well as providing security to your users. I'm going to try and do my first demo. So this is an app called Salamanca. This demo is technically in dev. It's not live in the App Store. Here we go. Oh, using it wrong. Okay, so this is an app called Salamanca, which is going to launch pretty soon in the App Store. And I'm going to go into a London-based restaurant. I'm going to try this for real. I'm going in, I'm going to make a reservation for next Thursday, Friday. Let's do 2 people. 7 o'clock. Bear with me. Ping pong. Okay, cool. So at this point, it's identified that I need to pay a deposit just in case I don't show. That's fine. This is integrated Stripe elements with Apple Pay. So let's just go through that flow, if I can. Turns out I can't share my screen using Apple Pay. Brilliant. Okay, let's see if it reconnects. But you might need to take my word for it. God bless Apple Pay. But that would create a virtual card in real time, place the reservation with, let's say, OpenTable, and my card details aren't shared at all. So that restaurant won't be able to charge my Apple Pay without going through the virtual card. I also thought it'd be interesting to talk about some AI tools. I'm sure you're familiar with many of these. We're now in a place where large language models like Claude Sonnet 3.7, they benchmark at accuracy of writing code at roughly 70%, which is extremely good. So you can go into OpenAI and Claude, or even use Stripe's models to say, hey, please write me the code to do X integration, write me a response to deal with a webhook event for payment success, for example, like we saw earlier. And it should do a very good job at getting it correct. If you haven't already, check out Cursor. It's a brilliant tool, lovable for building more UI. And when I think about where this is going, I wanted to talk about a new product called Zenning. And when I talk to engineers about AI coding, there is a new buzzword called code vibing, which is particularly interesting. And this is describing developers or non-developers writing code or deploying code without actually knowing how to code. They're writing prompts. They're saying, hey, please integrate with Stripe. I want to process some payments. I want to save details of customers. A language model goes away and writes the code, and the person doesn't even read the code. How scary is that? They just deploy it and run it. That is describing vibe coding, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to try and do a demo of this. This is a product that's not yet released, called Zenning.ai. And instead of just writing code in a Claude browser, like Claude Code that was released 1 or 2 weeks ago, it goes one step further. It writes the code, it deploys it, then runs it in a secure environment. So let's try and do this. Let's hope it's more successful than Apple Pay. Okay, so I'm going to ask this agent to create a virtual card in Stripe. And it should go away, write the code to create this virtual card, do it, and give me the details. And I don't need to write a single line. It's not letting me. Great. Cool. Okay, so this is just an example of where I think dev is heading. And for those developers in the room, I think we'll be using tools like this more frequently. And that's why I wanted to show it. So here we go. This is in real time writing code, deploying this code as it happens to a Cloudflare worker, integrating with Stripe. And there you go. It's created that virtual card and returned it to me. And you don't need to be a developer anymore to integrate with Stripe, which is pretty cool. Virtual cards, I believe, on Stripe aren't active by default. So let's get it to do that. Again, this has no code specifically written to integrate with Stripe. It just goes away and learns. Okay, so it's gone, it's activated it. That would have written an API call to do exactly that. I'm now going to ask to email me those details just for the sake of a demo. Again, it doesn't know how to email right now. It will write an integration. Probably it's going to use SendGrid. I know it is. And then email me those details. Okay, cool. So this is getting really interesting. I wanted to share something like this. There's a whole bunch of tools, there's hundreds of them, but I think we're heading to a place where developers write less code, you can move faster. All right, okay, so introducing Lopay. So Lopay is a simple, cheaper, faster version of the likes of SumUp and Zettle. So if you go to like a food market or like a hairdresser and you see a payment terminal right there at a small business, it could be us. And we use Stripe Terminal primarily for this. We founded the business a couple of years ago, just after COVID, when I got an email from Stripe saying, hey, this new product's available. I think it was a beta release. So it shows the importance of signing up to the pre-release notifications. And I was like, wow, it's pretty amazing that Stripe's going to do face-to-face payments. And basically that penny drop moment was, you can build something like a point-of-sale system without having to focus on payments. You can just spend your time focusing on the customer. And that principle applies, I think, to all businesses, right? When you're using Stripe, there are so many different things you could do. You could engineer many different things into a payment flow, but I just always recommend, especially to our engineers and our product teams, just keep things as simple as you possibly can. It gives you more headspace, more capacity to focus on your customer needs. So for example, I've got some numbers here, like Lopay has a staff count of just over 30 people, and we have over 40,000 businesses using our product. And when you compare that to other like-for-like POS companies, the ratios are much higher. So using Stripe allows us to move way more quickly and way more efficiently. Also, we monitor our competitors. I can say that because we sit on top of Stripe, we're more reliable. When we see a competitor have an outage, we have an increase in signups, which is a really nice thing to see. And also, I wanted to mention, like strategically, like doesn't matter if you're in product or engineering. The way I like to think about using Stripe, especially Stripe Financial Services, is position yourself so when Stripe gets better, your financial services also get better. So it could be like Stripe releases an update to Stripe Radar. You get that update for free, right? If you're already using Radar. Or if they introduce a new payment method. Like, don't over-engineer your checkout flows. So those new payment methods can just go live and hopefully increase conversion for you. I wanted to talk specifically about Stripe Connect. So Lopay services all sorts of small businesses. Not just in the UK, but now in America, Ireland, and France and Italy. We wouldn't be able to scale so quickly if we weren't using Connect onboarding. And you can do that in a number of different ways. But for example, a small limited company in America, you need to gather much different information than you do in the UK. And I would, if you're not using hosted onboarding, I would definitely consider adding it to your flow if you're using Connect. Again, same principle, you're shifting complexity away from your products into Stripe so you can focus on the customer. I also want to mention Stripe Identity. So it's not technically required, but Stripe Identity at Lopay has been a complete game changer in reducing fraud. So Stripe gives you out-of-the-box selfie checks and liveness checks. So somebody couldn't steal someone's photo from Facebook, put it through like an identity check. You have to be there, just like if you're using like a Revolut app or whatever. It's super powerful. And you might think, well, why would customers care about that if you're not a fraudster? And the answer is really simple. If you have less fraud on your platform, you can operate more effectively, and you can pass those benefits on, those savings on to your customers. So you can have a product that's at better value. Another product that we use so many, apps on devices. Does anyone in here work with a company that uses Stripe terminal at all? No. Okay, cool. Well, okay, so Stripe has a suite of hardware options. They're extremely reliable. This is their terminal option. It runs Android. If you've got an Android app, the chances are you can deploy it directly to the S700, which is really powerful. So this is great for like countertop services. We have a lot of hair salons using this product. It looks great. When you have a screen on the terminal that you can deploy an app to, it opens up other possibilities. So one thing that we do, for example, is loyalty. And I found actually the talk previously really interesting because we actually currently use card fingerprinting to identify if a customer is a repeat customer. And you can earn loyalty points through stamp card loyalty. And that's really popular at the moment. And actually, I'm quite looking forward to using PAR numbers. Okay, I've just realized my final demo probably won't work because I bet Apple won't let me share my screen. So I just wanted to give an example, and I'll just talk through it, of how you can combine multiple Stripe products, which are fairly modular now, to create something pretty new. And from a Lopay perspective, this is like our customers find this a magical experience. So here we've got a tap to pay, which is accepting card payments directly on your iPhone or your Android phone. And you can just tap, and if a pin's required, it supports pin entry, which is pretty unusual. Some people find that odd that you can do that. So there is a bit of a wow factor there. But together with Stripe Connect, we pre-fund those payments so they're instantly available to spend on Stripe issuing. And we've worked with Stripe to add issuing on digital wallets, so it's available on Apple and Google wallets. And when you put all of this together, you have this experience where a customer, for example, a taxi driver, can accept a taxi fare, then drive around the corner and spend that taxi fare immediately on fuel. And there's no additional hardware. He just can use his Android phone or his iPhone. So this is an example of using 3 Stripe products together to build a really seamless user experience. And there's dozens of Stripe products. So I would really recommend thinking about how you could stitch them together to achieve something like this. Here is a summary of everything else that we do. I will not talk through it all. Otherwise, I'll be here all night. But if you've got any questions about how we use these products, if you're thinking about using these products, we've been doing it now for a couple of years, so I can give you some feedback, some implementation tips. Again, tap to pay. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I don't know if I can share my screen. Let me try. This is my Lopay pin, don't worry, it's not my real pin. I don't normally sell bananas. Look at that, doesn't allow on-screen mirroring. Well, if anyone wants to send me some money after the presentation, this is how I earn my living. So please find me afterwards, and I will demo accepting that payment, tap to pay on my iPhone, and then spend a year on my Lopay card. But I think we've reached the end. Please go to lopay.com, have a look at our products, download it, have a play. You can see our wonderful Stripe onboarding. Also, if you don't already, try these AI tools. I highly recommend it. We see huge productivity gains in our product and engineering teams. And I'm particularly excited about these. Cool, thank you.